So what we want to do is listed here in the assignment. Down here in the batch scripting practice. Remember, the whole point here is just to get a taste of scripting skills and what it takes to write what I think is a meaningful script, but not super hard. So I'm going to, again, what I did is I copied the instructions, go to my friend ChatGPT after first logging in. I think I might be logged in over here. Logging into Google, and then go to my ChatGPT friend. And in this case, I am allowing you to use AI as we learn this, because it's a great teacher in many ways. So I'm logging in using my MAS email, going to continue with Google. You could have a separate account to use, but I'm going to use my Gmail account. And as I go in now, I'm going to ask that question, and I'm going to look at the batch script and finish that up, make sure it's all working. And I don't know why ChatGPT, maybe it's getting so overloaded, it's not letting me log in. Or ChatGPT, what's going on here? Well, while that's trying to log in, I will bring up my script that I think I had in here somewhere. Let's go open up my script. I think I have it over here. There's my createfiles.bat file. Now, I don't remember, Samuel, if you did this, but make sure that you put a nice comment at the top of your batch script telling you exactly what you're going to do. It doesn't say right now what it's doing, so I better put that in my comments. Put the remark comment in there. Script to create files, to create a sequence of files, to create or delete. And I might as well put the usage right there in my comments. Usage. And I'm going to take this script, and then take a parameter. It's, for example, 10, and then either nothing or delete. And if I do that, it will create 10 files. One, I'll call it file 1. Oh, and it isn't giving it a suffix. File 1, file 2, etc. all the way up to file 10. And then a little comment there. If delete will then delete those files. To leave no trace in my system that I have created then and then deleted files. So let's go to running of this script, and then we'll go back through the code because we pretty much got this one done last time. But along the way, we learn things like, what in the world does this mean? This equality, this parenthesis. Let's go run it to be sure it works. I'm going to run using command prompt. Go into Windows, look for CMD, bring up command prompt, and run it by going to where I saved it now. And remember how to change over to the D drive. Remember, my file is over here. If I look at my path here, my file is over here on the D drive, AT Manning. Remember, under Windows, in the command prompt, D : moves me over to that drive. CD takes me into a folder in that drive, and tab does autocomplete. AT Manning CS230 tab / create CS230 spring 2024, tabbing to give me my possible completions, and dir shows me the files that are there, and there's my createfiles.bat script. To run that script, I can just type create and then tab, and it shows me two files that start with create files.bat, create files.ps1. I hit enter after seeing create files.bat, and what do I get? I get the usage message, and then it's waiting for me to continue. Why did I put wait for me to continue? Remember why I did that? I have that right here. There's the wait for me to continue. Why did I put a pause there? Do you remember why?
To make sure when you enter is correct.
Yeah. Watch what happens if I don't have the pause there. I do a rem.
Oh, it like opens the program and immediately closes it, right?
Yeah, in this case, since I'm running from command line, it shows me the usage. But if I browse to it when I'm wanting to run it using my File Explorer, and again, this is something dangerous. This is why scripts can be so dangerous. If I browse to it, down to where I'm storing it, and I just double click on it to run it, I get a black window pop up and then it goes away. I don't know what happened. So having the pause in there, just in case I'm running it from File Explorer, I'll put a little comment in there, if running from File Explorer, keep the batch, the command prompt open. So now that I have pause in there, watch what happens. I go to my File Explorer, I run it, double click, and now I can go to the command prompt that popped up when I ran the program, and notice it gives me the message, oh, here's your problem, I'm not doing anything because this is the usage. So that's why the pause is very valuable. And this is a danger of Windows. If you have a script written in Windows, if it's a script and you double click on it, it runs that script. Now, if you have security settings configured on your system, you can configure your system to not automatically run scripts, or if you want to be careful about a script, you edit it first before you ever run it, because you want to know what commands are happening inside that script. So a lot of things to learn just by doing a little scripting of how dangerous you can be with scripts. And see, once I hit the pause or hit the key, any key, then that shell closes, because when running it from the user interface, it opens up a temporary shell, call it a temporary command prompt, runs the commands in the script, and unless you have a pause, that shell or that command prompt will exit. Well, it'll exit because I have the exit command there. I could also set it to not exit by commenting out the exit command. And then what happens is if I run that script, it starts a command prompt, waits for my pause, I hit a key, and now I have the prompt waiting for me. But still, it will go away because I think there must have been an exit somewhere else.
There's also does yours have a default where if you go into File Explorer, double click on it, it opens? Does it by default create 10 files, or because mine has to have command line?
Yeah, mine doesn't do anything. It exits right away. Oh, and that was my problem just now. Because I commented out the exit, what it did, it actually went to try to do something and didn't create anything because this parameter had nothing in it, and so it actually didn't do the loop because that parameter had nothing in it. So let's take a look again at this batch script and how this logic works. If you were taking a batch scripting class, you would learn a lot more about all the possibilities for Boolean logic and all that. But what I want you to do here, to learn here, is to recognize, just based on the context, what we're doing here. We're testing parameter 1, that's the first parameter. We're testing equality, and we use the percent to get at the value of parameter 1, and in this case %1 gives me the first parameter, and basically you're saying, hey, if you haven't given me a first parameter, then it'll be equal to an empty string, and then I will run this part of the if statement. Remember, if I have parentheses, that allows me to do multiple things after the condition. If I didn't have it, I could put it on the same line. You can do a single line if, but most common, I think most readable code is you write it like this, put plenty of white space around it, so it looks like a more readable program, and I can read what's happening inside that if statement. And this means once you do this, quit my program, don't continue on and try to do something else. Now notice here, inside of quotes to compare, I have the %1. If I actually want to assign the value of that first parameter, there is just %1. There is no tilde there. And that's just the way batch scripting works. It's a little weird, but as you read through batch scripts, you'll learn to recognize the basic logic. So with your computing skills you have so far, I would expect you should be able to understand the logic here based on the context. Some things get confusing like this, but you can kind of recognize this is a for loop. The /L, remember how I can find out what the /L means? I can go to command prompt and type in for /, and it'll tell me how for loops work and give me a little help about how, I hit space to see more. There's the /L, notice it can be capital or lowercase l. I run the command of, the sequence of commands, remember I have the do, and then parenthesis, I do whatever is in the command with parameters with the variable taking on the values starting at 1, stepping by 1, and going all the way up to 5. So it's start, step, stop. Start, step, end, what they call it there. So learning how to get help when you're working on batch scripting, because I am in, I'm hitting Q. Why isn't it hitting Q is supposed to stop it? I guess Control C. If you're ever getting output and you don't want any more, under Linux, the Q letter will stop the output. Under Windows, Control C will stop the output of something. Again, those things you learn just by working through them. So at this point, asking ChatGPT to give me a batch script, I added to it by adding comments, and then I practiced using it. Let's go actually practice using it now. I'm down in that folder. I do a dir. There's the files I got created. Let's run it by doing create files, .bat, the tab, found the first create, second tab finds the PS1. I want to run the bat one. I'm going to give it a start, or how many files there are. I'm going to say create me, how about 11 files, and I'm not saying delete, so it will create them. And now I do a dir in C, dir, I see the files are there, 1 to 11. The sorting is a little strange. Now let's do the same thing, but add the delete word to it, so now it will create them and also delete them. And now dir, dir. Oh, I see, it's waiting for me to hit a key. Now I see the files have been deleted. There's only the batch files around. So your job, after creating this script using help from ChatGPT, make sure it works, generates a usage, creates the files, and all you need to do is add some comments explaining what we're seeing. And we did this last time, so I'm kind of going a little more quickly over it. Stop me if you need any to go over any of the script. Are you good with it? Are you good, Louisa? Good, Samuel?
I just have some weird errors.
Okay. Well, let's do a little debugging, and then we'll go on to the PS1 version. I want to make sure that you've got the batch script version working, and let's do a little troubleshooting. I'll pause the recording for now. Back to batch scripting. If I'm ever doing anything, you can always use your AI help, or just look for help on Windows bat tutorial. There's probably a million YouTube videos about it, and you'll get a lot of help on how to do batch scripting. Tutorials point. I think Microsoft has a whole page on how to do batch scripting. I'm surprised it's not showing up sooner in my results. I don't think W3 Schools has it. Let's look for Microsoft. They have Windows commands, so you can learn them one command at a time, command line shells. So that gives you a lot of ideas about references. But as you do things in batch scripts, Windows batch scripts, look at all the commands you could study. This is your reference manual for things you can do from command line. And the nice thing about PowerShell now, as we look at that, is PowerShell is backward compatible, I believe. I've never run into a problem running a command from PowerShell that would also just as well would work in command prompt. But let's go check how do we, remember how we run PowerShell? I go to Windows key, type PowerShell, and normally the PowerShell runs as a non-privileged user. I can do things that I couldn't do in command prompt, like ls. dir and ls are the same thing under PowerShell, where under command prompt, if I type ls, it doesn't recognize it, but it does recognize dir. And it doesn't give me the same output. So you may have the same commands, but it may not look the same under PowerShell. And I don't know why, but mine isn't blue. It's not a bad idea to have PowerShell have a blue background compared to command prompt if you're switching between them, so you're not confused which one are you doing. Another reason, another evidence is by default your little prompt shows a PS in front of it. That is because of the way your profile is by default configured. Your profile actually controls what your prompt is going to be. And the default prompt is showing you the path that you're on right now. But you can change your prompt as well. Tons of things you can do with PowerShell scripting. So I'm going to go down into that same folder. I'm going to do a CD into my documents folder and CS230. I need to go to my D drive. I hit D : to get to my D drive. And now let's go to CD A.T. Manning, CS230, CS230 Spring 2024. And now I do a ls. There I see my create files. I could just as well run the createfiles.batch, and it will run it as a batch script, because it's backward compatible. If I'm in the command prompt though, and I try running createfiles.ps1, it pops up a text editor viewing what that PS1 is. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to say, sorry, I don't know what to do with that. But under PowerShell, if I run the createfiles.ps1, just by doing the / in front of it, remember / means run what you see in this current folder, and now I hit enter, and here I get the usage command. And look at that, it's asking me for the parameters. And I put number of files, let's make it 10. And there it creates the files. And now let's take a look at that PS1 script, just to understand, just to get an idea of how they work. I'm going to open that script after I made changes to this one. I'm going to open the PS1 script now. Remember, ChatGPT helped me with this. I can go back to there and ask it again if I'm not happy with its result, or ask another AI program to help me with it. Remember what I asked? I just said .ps1 script create sequence of files from input parameters, option to delete. I love how I can be fairly vague in the question, as long as it's sort of meaningful, it will come up with let's see here, and it's pretty much, as far as I can tell, it's very similar to the one I created last time. Another great way to learn is if it doesn't give you the same result each time, you'll see what's different about the next result. So let's take a look at the one I had generated before, because I think I had started, I guess I hadn't started putting comments in there. Now let's comment through the PS1 script. Remember, I am asking for you to put comments at the top, NIC and PS1 scripts, the # is my comment delimiter. And it's up to you if you want to put comment # on blank lines, but I often see that in other scripts, and sometimes you even see a fancy little border around it. It's up to you how fancy you want to be in your header, as long as you have a header. So I can put a little frame around my header. And what I'm going to say is PS1 script, I'll call it PowerShell script. PowerShell script to create a sequence of files based on input parameters. Now let's see if we can understand what's going on here. Right away, this is quite a bit different than the batch script. I have the param statement and then parentheses and then square brackets and mandatory equals true on some of them. It looks like this is saying, oh, that's part of this line. I'm going to put that on the same line just so it's clear to me that this is dealing with this parameter, number of files. Mandatory equals true. And when I run it, just for testing it, where's my command prompt? Oh, that power. Go back to power. In my PowerShell, when I ran it without parameters, look what it asked for. It popped up a little message, number of files, :10. So let's put that in our comments, that making it mandatory. Oops. Making it mandatory means it will ask, it'll prompt the user, for this input if not provided. Now let's just, for testing that, let's see what happens if I run it without parameters, and what if I don't give an answer to it? Well, ask me again. Let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. It asked me once. Let's see if I give it a bad value. Let's give it an ABC instead of a number. It asked me again. So I hit nothing, and apparently, what does it do? It thinks that, but does it think I gave it a 0? We might have to check that. If I hit enter, it created a file 1 and a file 0. I was hoping it would say, wait a minute, you didn't give me anything. I'm not doing anything. So I think there actually may be a bug in this script. If I don't answer number of files, let's actually give it a number now. Let's say 5, number of files. And it actually does create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice what happens if I don't give it a parameter. I just hit enter. It actually creates a file 1 and a file 0. Not making a whole lot of sense to me why it would do that. But let's take a look at our script and maybe we'll have a clue. Action equals create. Apparently this is a optional parameter. So it looks like by default is optional parameters. But notice what's happening here. By saying equal create means the default action is equal to create, is equal to the string create. So I can give default values to optional parameters. So this is very powerful, a little more detailed, but I think in the long run more usable, more readable than the batch script form of that. Test whether it's not there and then have lots of if-thens. Here, just say it's mandatory. So once I make it mandatory, it will ask me if I forget to give it that parameter. I am assuming, I haven't tried playing with this, if I have mandatory parameters, I should all make them be the first ones, and then the optional ones come later. Because if I mix required and then optional, required and then optional, I think I might have to, in my command, know what I'm doing, either with spaces or commas between things, to make sure I'm handing the right values to parameters. Now, look at this syntax. Again, a way to learn just a bit of PowerShell scripting. I am seeing from this test that action, remember that's a variable that we're expecting to have a value. If it is now, notice what this is doing. Can you tell what's happening there? Not in, @ sign, parenthesis, multiple words separated by commas. So apparently, if I don't have the word create or delete, it will tell me with instead of echo, I have write host, invalid action, and specify one of these two words. I'm thinking if I want to work on this, maybe I could specify, instead of hard coding specify, could I have it list what I have specified here as valid actions? But that would make me have to learn how to create arrays of words in PowerShell, and I'm not going to worry about that for now. So I can see from example that there is a not in, @ sign means treat this as an array or a little table to search for a word in. So I have the action word. Is it one of these two words? So I'm going to put in comments dash not in means check if this variable is in the list. If it's not in the list, well, I will write a message and exit my shell. Let's see if that happens again with PowerShell. Remember before, if I have an exit, let's go to double click on that PowerShell script now. If I double click on that, it wants to treat it as a file to edit. Let's see if I can right click, run with PowerShell, and see what it does. Oh, look at that. Because it had that parameter, it hasn't closed the command. Let's hit enter. It does its thing. Oh, and it does exit. So when I run it from file browser, unless I put a pause at the end, once it does its thing, it will close the window. So back to my editor. This exit will close the window if I don't give it an action to delete. Here is now my create files loop. How about this syntax? What do you think? One ... number of files, which is a parameter that I'm expecting. It will do in a little piping of that. Think of that as a list of numbers. Each one of those numbers gets sent to the for each dash object. This leaves a lot of room for me figuring out how for each object works. But from the context, I can tell that I am looping for each value from 1 to number of files. And I don't expect you to understand why that particular syntax. All I expect you to see is, yeah, based on what the context is, this is somehow giving me a loop of 1 to the number of files. By example, I'm learning a way to do loops in PowerShell. I don't know, does Python have a format like this for doing a loop? I don't recall seeing anything like that. I'm used to seeing the for I equals 1, I is less than, I plus plus kind of format. This is a whole different way of thinking about a loop through a number of counts. So PowerShell language, I'd say, feels a little strange. This doesn't look so strange. I'm assigning a value to a variable, but notice my variables start with $signs instead of percents. And apparently, to create a file in PowerShell, I do new-item. Let's go back to PowerShell, and let's see if I do that here. Let's do new, from the command new-item, and let's call it Manning1. So yeah, new. What's going on? Oh, ls. There it is. There it created the file Manning1. So new item is a way to create a file. Well, I also know that I can create a file just by doing echo hello and redirecting it to a file. I'll call it Manning2. That's another way to create a file. Just take some output and send it to a file. Notice what new item does. It creates a file with nothing in it. Very similar to the touch command under Linux. Okay, so it's creating an empty file. I'm going to put a little comment here. It's creating an empty file. That's significant. Create an empty file with the name specified. Well, how do I figure out what my name is? Oh, I see here, with PowerShell, here is how I concatenate strings. So I'll put a little comment there. Example, concatenating strings, concatenation. So the word file, $_ concatenated with .txt. What is this thing $_? Can you tell from the context what $_ is? What do you think, Louisa? What do you think $_ means here? From the context, we're looping through in PowerShell, one at a time. Can you tell what $_ is going to mean? Remember, I'm going to create a file that's going to say file 1, file 2, file 3. So $_ represents my looping variable. Kind of a crazy way, so I'm going to put that in comments. $_ is my loop variable. So PowerShell scripts look quite a bit different than batch scripts, which is the reason I wanted you to do one of each, because it's quite a bit different. You got new item instead of echoing some output. You've got write host to give me a message. And here's again the file created. Actually, let's, instead of saying file $_ created, let's say file name created. That makes more sense. File name created in my script. And let's just see how that works in PowerShell. I'm going to run that script. Create files PS1, 10 files. Notice it's telling me the actual file name that's being created. And notice it is giving it a .txt suffix. Remember with Windows, if I'm viewing files from the File Explorer, that file suffix makes Windows makes a big deal about my file suffix. If it has a .txt, it's going to treat it as a text file. I double click on it, automatically opens up a text editor showing me the contents of that file. So txt is a safe suffix to give to a file. Dangerous to give a file a .bat suffix, because Windows will think, oh, there's commands in there, I'll go run them. Delete all your files. Reformat your hard drive. Lots of fun things. Samuel, you love doing all that, right?
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Reinstalled system. That's why, again, we'd never run scripts as administrator or as root unless we're absolutely sure. Now see how we have the loop during the create, the loop during the delete. Since I already commented the loop during the create, unless there's something different, I could just say delete files in the same manner. I'm going to add to this, instead of say file deleted, I'm going to say file $file name, because I want to refer to the full name of the file that I'm deleting. So the person that sees the output knows that I have created a file with the word file in front of it, then a loop pass through the loop number that's going to start from 1 up to the number of files. And then the message, files deleted successfully. So 2 scripts, one of PowerShell, one of BAT, giving you a taste of PowerShell or batch scripting. Any debugging needed? You happy with how that? It's easy enough. I've given you a little easier projects towards the end here. And let's go back and check the assignment then. Back in the assignment description over here, all I want from you is to update your 2 batch scripts. .bat, send me that. PS1. Just send me 2 files. I will submit them as JSmart by going to upload a file. I'll go upload each script one at a time. Nicely commented. That's the next thing. Be sure you comment them liberally. There's the batch script, and I will upload the PS1 script. If you want to add a comment like this was so much fun, or PowerShell is much different than BAT. And you know, just for fun, let's look online. Let's see, what's his problem? Oh, look at this. The upload is not finishing. Is he having a problem uploading a PS1 file? Wonder if I have to zip them together. Why is he complaining about that, or not finishing the upload? I'm going to close it from inside of Notepad++, just to make sure. Let's try this again. Oh, I canceled. Let's try that again. I'm going to try to upload the PS1 script. Isn't that annoying? It's not letting me upload the PS1 script. Can you try that and see if it will let you upload your PS1 script? I don't. It's like it's like it doesn't like it.
It also doesn't take batch scripts.
It was happy with the BAT one.
Oh really?
Yeah, it took my batch script. It didn't complain. Let's see. What could I do? I'm over here in Windows PowerShell. It doesn't like that batch script. Let's do this. Let's go to my command prompt, and I'm going to do a copy create files.ps1 to create files.ps1.txt. How about that? I'll add a .txt to it, and now let's see if it will let me upload. There's the create files ps1.txt. Much happier. So that must be a Windows server that's hosting Schoology, because any other system would not care about the suffix PS1. They must think it's dangerous. But look how easily I can bypass the safety feature of not allowing PS1 scripts. I just give it a different name, and now it's happy with me sending it. If I want to view it, I just click on that, and I can see the 2 files that I submitted. This shows me the script. Oh, that's interesting. This one, notice it has the .bat suffix, so it doesn't show an editor on the Schoology side. If it has a .txt suffix, it shows me the contents in the Schoology little file displayer. So batch scripting, having that skill in your, at least in, at the very least, knowledge of how dangerous and how powerful scripting can be, how Windows behaves with scripting. Now you can search for scripts. Let's just, oh, this is what I'm gonna, let's go online and let's just do a quick compare.bat versus .ps1. Let's see what this guy says about differences. I've never got a SharePoint diary before. That may be let's do a better search term. Let's do compare BAT and PS1. Which is better? There, Stack Overflow. Let's see if Stack Overflow gives me decent output. Difference between, well, he's giving you more technical differences. This guy says PowerShell has extra features. I see that. Default Windows executes batch and command files using cmd.exe. That's the shell program that basically runs all the commands. See if he says any bad things about .ps1. That's a pretty basic stuff there from Stack Overflow answer. Let's see if Microsoft. Do you think Microsoft might explain the difference between? Here we go. Converting a batch to PS1. You'd think that Microsoft would have. I suppose I could go to the Microsoft site and look for comparison of batch versus PS1. Let's go to the Learn Microsoft site, learn.microsoft.com, and they talk about scripting and how to convert it. Somebody wrote a converting program to convert something into PS1. I don't even know what this is doing. Let's see, does Microsoft have a help in the Learn page? Ask a question. Let's see if I can ask a question. Oh, I have to sign in first. Well, we'll skip that sign in first because we are out of time. I was curious to see whether Microsoft had a decent comparison of PS1 and